To everybody watching this video, what happened to Chuck Schumer here? Did he give away the Democrats' plan? But that looks like to be the case, where he literally was asked about the Epstein files, which again, the Democrats have tried to use. But again, because of Trump coming out and saying release everything, they have nothing to run on. Trump is front running them and they know it. And Chuck Schumer literally has a malfunction live on air, and it has Democrats in a panic. Listen to this.
Okay.
Senator, on that note, just I guess a question that's out there. Why wouldn't they have been released the last 4 years when President Biden was in office?
Well, that's the question every American is asking. Not every American, but so many Americans are asking. What the hell is he hiding? Why doesn't he want them released? When you don't want something like this released, when even a whole lot of Republicans are calling for the release, his own party members, people ask the question, what's he hiding? It's got to be answered by releasing the files.
So he has a hiccup there by him admitting that what happened during the Democratic years of Joe Biden and Merrick Garland having this versus now. But let me ask you guys a simple question before I dive deep into this. Do you guys really think that Trump is a pedo? Do you think that? Do you think that, like, somebody in the comments, like, do you think, what do you think Trump is hiding? Do you think Trump is actually hiding anything? What do you think? Because I think that there is a huge divide here by people that even voted for Trump. They think that Trump has something to hide. They think that Trump is, again, many Democrats are trying to use this. So what do you think? What do you think? Before we move on to the next clip, because you heard Chuck Schumer there admitting that the Democrats, that's what everybody wants to know, and then he flips it on Trump as he always does. Please let me know down in the comments. Explain to me in a paragraph, if you have to, what do you think about all of this, and why do you think Democrats are trying to use it? Well, here is another Democrat leader, Hakeem Jeffries. Holy crap. He was confronted about the fact that a congressional Democrat colluded with Jeffrey Epstein to harm President Trump in 2019. Yes, there is a sitting congresswoman today from the Virgin Islands that is legitimately she was texting Jeffrey Epstein during a congressional hearing to try to get information to harm Trump. Here we go.
Peter Jeffries. Why should Americans trust you and House Democrats on the Jeffrey Epstein files when one of your own, Congresswoman Plaskett, was found to be texting with Jeffrey Epstein during a hearing, getting information from him, using that in her questioning during a congressional hearing, and at one point he tells her, "Good job."
This is a bipartisan effort to make sure that, consistent with what the survivors have requested, that there's full and complete transparency, and every single predator who may be in those Justice Department files doesn't escape accountability. Thanks.
Be careful what you wish for, because again, Trump has now agreed to have and support that the senators and the Senate and Republicans vote on this so we can finally get everything out there. But the Democrats, again, had 4 years to do something about it. And look at the smirk, because he knows that he didn't want to answer that number one question that everybody has noticed here. A sitting congresswoman was texting Jeffrey Epstein in the middle of all of this. Literally, ladies and gentlemen, like, people are going back, and this is coming from CNN. House Democrat exchanged texts with Epstein during 2019 congressional hearing. This is all backfiring on them. Stacey Plaskett, who was a Democrat representative from the islands in Congress as a non-voting delegate, exchanged texts with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein during the 2019 congressional hearing. The delegate's office confirmed to CNN. So this is a real story. But how does this woman still have a seat in Congress when you know she was texting the one person that everybody is trying to say that was with Trump, that wasn't with Trump? But yet, what is the story here? Well, the story here is that you have big time House Democrats like Hakeem Jeffries and, of course, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer panicking because they know their time has come. They're way past their times. Let me separate this for a lot of people that don't know. There are challenges out there, primary challengers out there against this guy in New York City. And it looks like he could lose the 8th district in Brooklyn, coming up very soon. So these Democrats have a lot of problems when it comes to young progressives and how they want this. And now they are trying to run cover for them. But again, you have a House member, sitting Congress, non-voting delegate who legitimately was caught texting Jeffrey Epstein. So the Democrats have a lot of problems when it comes to this. And now they're going to be faced with even more problems when all the files actually come out and they're proven wrong. What they wanted from all of this was they wanted all of this to last until the midterms. They wanted complete control. But guess what? The Trump dividend paychecks for $2,000 are also going to be around the time that the midterms come around. So there is some game being played here by the Trump administration, knowing that the Democrats are trying to frame Trump by redacting names. That's the story to tell. Is it? Somebody tell me otherwise. I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Here's what I want. We have nothing to do with Epstein. The Democrats do. All of his friends were Democrats. You look at this Reid Hoffman, you look at Larry Summers, Bill Clinton, they went to his island all the time, and many others, they're all Democrats. All I want for people to recognize the great job that I've done. And I hate to see that deflect from the great job we've done. So I'm all for it. You know, we've already given 50,000 pages. You do know that.
And again, just now, Democrats who claimed for weeks that Trump had something to hide in the Epstein files, he just now instructed Republicans to vote to release all of the Epstein files, to know what was so cynical, to know all of the names, to know where people were flying in and out of, who they were they having sex with underage girls? Who are they? Should they be locked up? What should happen? Where are all these files? We're about to get all of that. And at least it's going to be approved by the Senate and then the House. And then the Democrats got themselves a problem because they're now going to be forced to do what they should have did 4 years ago, according to Chuck Schumer, right? So now you have nothing to campaign on. You know that this is exactly what they wanted to campaign on. You played yourself, Democrats. P.S. You don't actually care about victims, or you wouldn't have been silent from 2021, January of 2025. Throughout this whole time, you wouldn't have been silent, but you were. And you saw an opportunity, and you thought that the American people were stupid enough to buy that lie. It gets worse. Holy crap. Chuck Schumer just revealed that Chuck Schumer, behind closed doors, begged to keep the government shut down to Thanksgiving, per CNN. This is another story coming out from Chuck Schumer. Again, they had two things going for them that they just ruined. And I think Trump noticed that, and the Trump administration and the White House noticed that there were two things that the Democrats were trying to use in order to manipulate and win the vote in 2026 in the midterms. It was this. So holy crap, once again, it was just revealed that Chuck Schumer, behind closed doors, begged to keep the government shut down to Thanksgiving, per CNN. He called Democrat governors and influential party leaders to not give him backup for his strategy. And I quote all of this, and I quote. So Chuck wanted to destroy Thanksgiving for travel for millions, on top of withholding pay from troops, important federal programs, and employees. Some of these Chuck Schumer told him no. Some just didn't do it. So again, that's why some eight Senate Democrats went behind his back to vote with the Republicans on reopening the government, right? Because what they wanted to do was cause chaos. They already had something going on with the Epstein files, and they wanted to cause chaos by closing everything down. Let's be honest. When you looked at the airports, you looked at the FAA, and you looked at all these flights being canceled, and you look at some accidents happening on the airways, right? On the ground, it was starting to work out that the Democrats were causing enough panic and fear in the markets that all eyes would shift to who's president, Trump, and the Trump administration. So, but the fact that 8 Democrats voted against Senator Chuck Schumer, and again, Chuck Schumer turns out to be the one that was pushing for this because he wants to be looked at as a tough guy. That stance of closing the government and having people starve, that was a stance from progressive radical leftists on his party. He seems to have sided with them, but the 8 Democrats did not side with him. There's been many times that Chuck Schumer has surrendered, but this time he was actually trying to push for utter insanity in order to remain a party leader and be looked at as a strong partner to the Democrats. But now it's all pretty much backfired, because when we do get all these documents and all these things, and again, for those who claim that this was not working and that this was not manipulating public opinion, you are the problem. I've been ringing the bell for a very long time. If anybody voted for Trump, anybody voted for policies, or anybody that is in that realm, I told you, I gave you a warning. I said, yo, if you don't get on top of these files, you're going to lose the middle to the right and the middle to the left, and you're going to lose a lot of young voters. Stop disconnecting yourself from this. Stop saying that this is not a big deal. I saw a lot of influencers or a lot of YouTube channels that I respect go out of nowhere and say that this doesn't matter. It does. It does to the other side of America that you're trying to reach to win elections. Stop doing that. In my opinion, stop, because all that's going to do is say that you do have something to hide, or that you don't care, pedos, when you should be playing that. Don't play into their hands. Don't play their game, but play your game. By what? By just being transparent and putting everything out there. You have nothing to hide. Put it all out there. Let them know. Let them see it. And don't give them a lifeline that they do not need, because now they're sitting up there panicking. They have nothing. They're literally falling apart, right? This is all ripping them apart. They have primaries that they are going to be looking to in the midterms. They might get primaried. So don't give them a lifeline to look like they are the ones that are fighting for the victims and the American people, and you're the party protecting them, because that's what it looked like for at least a week or two. And that is not a good look for America, especially with Dan Bongino, Kash Patel, and everybody literally fought and said, we're going to expose all this evil. And then when you get there, you say it's a hoax, which in my opinion, looking at it now, seeing a congresswoman texting and seeing how the Democrats are trying to use this, I understand. I think it's justified to say that it is a hoax the way they're trying to do it. But what's not a hoax is that Epstein did exist, and Epstein did do some wild stuff, very evil, demonic stuff, in my opinion. So that's my thoughts. That is my thoughts on this. Again, I've lost followers for, again, saying things like this, right? Because there is, as some people say, this is the woke right. This is the, I don't really pay attention to that. I pay attention to what's common sense. What is common sense? Releasing the files is common sense. Releasing everything. Not giving the Democrats a lifeline they don't need. What the Democrats did about 2 weeks ago when they won and they swept the elections, that should scare a lot of people. To have Democrats back in power, you think this channel is going to be standing? I don't think this channel is going to be standing at all. You don't think they're going to reappeal all of these guidelines that again, YouTube has knocked down because there is a freer speech administration on there? But before that, we were all getting knocked down. How many YouTube channels you know came back because Trump is president? How many things you know have changed because Trump became president? So there's something to look at. You don't want these people back in power. Don't give them the lifeline they don't need. See you guys on the next one.